Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our weekly news media briefing. What a great opportunity to be outside. This is my favorite time of year, so any opportunity to be out here, I'll jump on it. I'm glad you all are here too. We have several things we wanted to mention to you this morning, most of which are outside. This coming up this weekend. One is starting tomorrow, we have a tree climbing competition, which to my knowledge is the first time we've ever had one of these in our city. And so it's the City of Wichita's Park and Recreation Department is actually hosting what's called the North American Open Masters Tree Climbing Championship. The competition features climbers from around the country, all around the world actually, and from, we know so far we have people coming from Barbados, Sweden, Estonia, England, Canada, as well as the United States. Starting tomorrow at 3 and running through Sunday, 2 p.m. at Oak Park in the 1100 block of West 11th, which is right up here around the corner. 3 of the 37 climbers are actually from Wichita, and one of them works for our own Park and Recreation Department. So here to tell us more about everything that a tree climbing competition entails is Chris Corley, who's one of our professional tree maintenance individuals with the Wichita Park and Recreation Department. Chris?
So, beginning tomorrow at 3 p.m., we will be holding Wichita's first ever professional tree climbing competition at Oak Park. The event will begin Friday, tomorrow, the 29th, 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. Friday's main event is going to be a nighttime head-to-head race to the top of a beautiful bur oak. It will be accompanied by a DJ, Macrobiotic, as well as a laser light show. On Saturday, the event hours will be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The events for the day will consist of 2 Masters-inspired climbs, a throw line challenge, and an aerial rescue challenge. Saturday's event will also be accompanied by a DJ hybrid phonic, and Noble House food truck will be on site from 10 till 2. The final event will be on Sunday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event for Sunday is the Finals Masters Challenge and will be completed by the top female and male climbers from the preliminary events the following 2 days, the previous 2 days. There will be music and hopefully a lot of cheering from the crowds for the competitors. This is a free family-friendly event, and we are encouraging everyone to come get a glimpse of this unique and exciting show. There will be at least 37 climbers from all over the world showing their skills. So bring your blankets, chairs, and coolers. No alcohol, it's a park. And so we are also going to be shutting down 11th Street from Forest Avenue up to Oak Park Drive. Because of this, the parking is going to be a little bit challenging for the area. So the park department is going to be providing a shuttle service from Central Riverside that will be leaving from Central Riverside on the hour and then returning on the half an hour from Oak Park. Thank you, guys.
If you haven't ever seen tree climbing, I find it very fun to watch. Occasionally they do training over here in Oak Park, and I've been known to stop and just watch that just because it's so interesting. You don't really get to see it very often, but clearly it's a skill I don't have. Other people do, and it's fun to watch. So another event this weekend is our annual Firefighter Memorial for the Kansas Firefighters. Here to tell us more about that is Fire Marshal Stu Bavis.
As you mentioned, this weekend on Sunday, October 1st, is going to be the annual Kansas Fallen Firefighters Memorial. It's held at Lincoln Park, actually, at the Memorial, 1300 South Broadway. Each year, firefighters from around the state gather to remember our fallen and have a quite touching ceremony, including the honor guards, the pipers, and drums. If you've never been there, I really encourage you to attend at the memorial. We will have a keynote speaker. The keynote speaker is Chief Alan Shelton of the Garden City Fire Department. And it is a very, like I said, a very touching ceremony, and I encourage you all to come and join. And it's very sort of awe-inspiring as well, the fact that we typically have a large flag flying from a couple of our aerial apparatus, and it's quite a sight to see. So encourage you all to come out. It's at 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, October 1st, 1300 South Lincoln. I'm sorry, 1300 South Broadway, just south.
At Lincoln Park. Okay, and so lastly today we're wanting to feature our Kansas wildlife exhibit. And I'll start these comments by paraphrasing a quote from Margaret Mead, which is, never doubt the changes that a small group of committed citizens can make. Because this wildlife exhibit has had its tenuous moments in history where it might close, but because of the efforts of a number of volunteers who are here today and will recognize, that exhibit continues to exist today and is in fact being refurbished. Thank you to the funds that are being raised by the Friends of the Kansas Wildlife Exhibit. So you'll notice that there are not animals in here today, and that's because over the next few weeks the structural steel and wrought iron fence will be cleaned and repainted. The landscaping inside the duck and hawk cages will be repaired. The water feature in the duck cage will be rebuilt. I'm guessing maybe that's what that is. Some oversized trees will be removed, and a new type of wire cloth will enclose the sides of the facility. New trees will be planted next spring to take the place of the ones removed. Volunteers and park staff began the renovation last Tuesday. If all goes well, they're hoping to finish up by the middle of this coming mid-October or toward the end, bringing it to its 29th year, where it officially began in this format in 1988. The animals are currently being housed in various locations, such as Sharon Fury's house. No, not really. Such as the Real Zoo, the Big Zoo, the Great Plains Nature Center, and will then be rehomed here in this revitalized and fresh exhibit area when they return. And this morning I would like to introduce a man who many of you know well, Jim Mason, who is here on behalf, speaking for the Friends of the Kansas Wildlife Exhibit. He's also the director of the Great Plains Nature Center, and I believe he plans to recognize volunteers. So yes, and if he doesn't, I will when we get done, who we really, really appreciate bringing new life to this exhibit. So, Jim?
I am a director of the Great Plains Nature Center. I'm an employee of the Wichita Parks Department, 39 years now. And
Short-timer.
Yeah, leaning for the tape. I'm going to retire at the end of this year. But anyway, I'm very intimately acquainted with this facility here, the Kansas Wildlife Exhibit. I grew up in Wichita. I was one of the kids that came over here to watch them see the move the alligators back in the day. And I started working for the park department at this facility in early 1979. And in the mid-'80s, when the first revolution happened, when we built this facility, I actually designed the landscaping on the inside of the cages. And so I'm really tickled now, 29 years later, who would have thunk it, to be back here and overseeing its renovation for future use. There's been a place to go look at the animals here in Riverside Park since 1901. We've got a 116-year tradition that we're very happy to carry on with. Mentioning the volunteers, we've had some dedicated individuals from the Kansas Pond Society who have schlepped around over 8 tons of rock to redo the exhibits here in this one right behind me and the one over there around the corner. Some individuals from Crossland Construction donated their time to come in here and chop off some steel parts that we didn't need anymore, and we really appreciate their efforts as well. We overall, this project will be about a $200,000 renovation, including materials that we buy and contracted services, etc. We're going to be hiring the renovation of the steel. That's going to begin next week, hopefully, if this rain will give us a break. We've certainly want to recognize the efforts of the Friends of the Kansas Wildlife Exhibit, Sharon Fury, Karen Dittmer, and other people whose name I will not remember. but perhaps somebody else will help me out with that, who have succeeded in raising these funds that we're using to pay for the reconstruction. There certainly is park staff time with forestry, with park operations, with myself, with the people who work here to contribute to this process, but the fundraising has all been done as a result of this committee. A very generous bequest started off the process a little over a year ago, and then we've had some very significant grants that we've acquired as well through the diligent efforts of the committee to raise those monies, and we really appreciate it so that we can continue to have a place for more generations of Kansas and Wichita residents to come and look at the animals here in Central Riverside Park.
So the Friends of the Kansas Wildlife Exhibit, I think, has been kind of co-chaired by Claire Willenberg, Sharon Fury, Kathy Dittmer's been very involved. Who else is here? James Thompson. Wave. I see Mike Kant from the Pond Society. And who else is here? From any other volunteers? Anyway, that's always risky naming people because you always leave somebody out, and I hate to do that. So, and wonderful Stacy Ham of the Parks Department, who has facilitated working with a group of volunteers. That's the other thing. You always, I've been on both sides of that, and I know as volunteer groups, we can be a handful. So we do appreciate staff working with us to accomplish projects. So anyway, my greatest appreciation goes to you for working on this exhibit. There have been several projects during the course of my tenure on the city council where people wanted me to do something, and I was like, listen, I really can't do this, but I'll support you if you want to take it on. And if you're ever going to say that to this group, you better watch out, because they will do it. And so thank you very much for what you've done. The renovation of this is going to mean so much to a lot of Wichitans and to people who live in the neighborhood. So thank you very much. And thank you, Jim, for your almost 30 years of, well, longer than that when you first started here, so of your commitment. And we are going to miss you. And when I was joking about being a short timer, not that you were retiring, but that you've been here for almost 30 years. So thank you so much for your service. So that's true. We do know where he lives, and we know he can walk over here and back. So and he and I are almost neighbors. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. We'll take any questions that you have after this, and we appreciate you coming out today.